Hey, we're live here. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Life, and several other podcasts, including this one, which is Prime Lunchtime with City Manager Brian Johnson. Hey, Brian.
Rico, how are you?
Good. It's been a good month. But before we get into things, I just want to give a shout out to a couple of sponsors that we have. We are certainly doing this podcast from Prototype Prime, an incubator here in the City of Peachtree Corners that has been in the center of so many different things that are going on in the city, and we'll be talking about that as well, especially the Curiosity Lab that's going on here that's put us on the map, if you will, the only place really in the state and possibly in the States.
Definitely in
the state of
U.S.
Georgia.
Well, no, in the U.S.
In the U.S.
That's like this, yeah.
So unbelievable. And we're moving along on that. But I want to give a shout out to some other sponsors as well. So Explore Gwinnett, which is they promote the diverse cities and unique foods and outside sites in the county of Gwinnett County, which is probably the most diverse county in the state of Georgia. So check out our top 10 list. We have the latest one out there on top 10 desserts with Victoria Hawkins from Explore Gwinnett. And check out their website because they're in the middle of doing Soul of the South, which is exploring the Asian cuisine and culture in our own backyard here in Gwinnett County. So the first three of those tours, restaurant tours of Korean community and restaurants, have been sold out. So the next ones opened are August 3rd and September 14th. Our other sponsor is the biggest footprint in the town center, and that's CMX Cinebistro, what I like to call a 4-star restaurant that happens to show movies. It's in-theater dining, great love seats, great setup, distinctive style seating, a scratch kitchen that produces great entrees and desserts, some really fine wines also listed there, and great signature cocktails as well. So check them out. They're at Town Center. This weekend the two big movies are Endgame and Shazam. Endgame is the big thing that everyone's going after.
No kidding.
Right? So looking forward to seeing that this weekend as well. But let's head into a little bit about what's going on in the City of Peachtree Corners. So I know the biggest thing right now is that we have a grand opening this Saturday.
That's kind of taking a lot of our time and resources right now, is making sure that, it's been a long time coming, many, many years. Planning for it, predates my tenure here by a number of years. Council, this city hadn't been in existence very long, and before, mayor and council had a decision to make on whether they were going to allow another large garden-style apartment development to happen on that parcel, or whether the city...
Which it was zoned for.
It was zoned for, and there was a developer that was going to do that, had already started the process, and whether they were going to do that or whether they were going to intercede, so to speak, and kind of commit to that parcel as one which we could supplement what was, a great head start on maybe a destination location downtown, and that is the Forum.
Right.
That had existed. It has its following. It has its customer base. It's known, and so they made that decision to do something special and create a location that our citizens can go to and enjoy and have special events and call it our downtown. Yeah. And that's what we've got.
It's amazing. We were talking before we started the show that life is funny that way, right? You look at kids, this is like a kid almost, right? That you look at your kids and you're like, wow, all the history that's there. And then sometimes you're like, wow, that's gone by so fast.
Yeah, it was just the other day that they were an infant or, and it's same here. Even in the 2.5 years I've been here, there's been a lot of behind the scenes just minutia that you've got to deal with to get there. Just small things that oftentimes you just don't, think about, like, where do we need electrical outlets on the town, the 2-acre town green to facilitate future stuff, and just little stuff, thousands and thousands of little decisions like that to add up to something.
And I would also think, to some degree, almost like a crystal ball, because you're setting a foundation that may expand further. We do have 6-7 acres back that way as well that's vacant land. So how do you sort of create it in a responsible way where you might be able to expand there? Maybe the town center expands there. Maybe something else expands there.
And, I think we've talked about it before, which is probably how you are going that direction so quickly. But yes, we we purchased some property that's along, that would be the east side of the town, green. And we are currently sitting on it, waiting for the town center to open and the town green to be activated. Right. And for us to kind of sit back and both observe ourselves as well as solicit input from, the community on what they like from what we initially put in and what we need to do to improve. And we have, essentially you could say 3 of the 4 sides are developed. Right. But we have a whole side that has not. And we can do a lot of cool stuff with it. So we're excited about the potential to enhance this based on feedback, once it's open. But it's, it's a great start. And then when you consider the town center and all the amenities there, the town green, gathering space, stuff for kids, lots of, especially food oriented, tenants. And then you connect that with the forum, which is heavier on the commercial or the retail side. Right. And you connect them both with a pedestrian bridge so that you really can consider that our downtown.
And I just saw the RFP go out for that a week ago, I think. Yep. And the schematics for it, which is pretty much the way it was envisioned the last revision of it. With the
not the original one.
No, nothing. Right. No double spirals, no grandiose towers like from Game of Thrones. It's like we're not going to be there. But it is a nice looking. It is. For the site, it looks actually within reason to be what it should be. The name of Peachtree Corners will be on there.
It will.
So, when you're entering the city from north or south, I think.
Both sides,
You'll be able to see that.
Right, and we felt like we needed to do 2 things with connecting with the pedestrian bridge. One is we have 2 distinct destination locations, but it's divided by this river of cars. Right. And we wanted to connect the 2 and not feel disconnected. And without it, there is a level of disconnection that you feel. Definitely as a pedestrian, you kind of feel that way just because it's a more dicey situation to try to cross at grade.
Yeah, and I've seen even more people recently like that. I mean, just trying to get across.
Right. Well, now there's a need to go across where before there wasn't.
And especially at night. I mean, you could hardly see. Now, okay, I'm 60 years old, but I think I'm still fairly good as a driver. But, I can see how challenging it could be if you wanted to cross after dusk. Right. That road, I would not want to cross that road. There's too many cars, too many things going on, that a pedestrian bridge makes more sense to me. If I'm shopping at the Barnes & Noble and I want to go across to have, dinner at Firebirds, I could do that without having to risk life and limb on that road, really.
Or go to your car, get out there, then go up to the traffic signal, wait to cross, go over, find parking again, and then walk out. You could just, much faster. And so we felt it was, strongly about connecting the 2 because we wanted these 2 destination locations to feed off of each other. We wanted our 2 halves of our downtown to be connected. We wanted to eliminate the ability at that location for a pedestrian to increase the length of the red light for north-south traffic on 141 by activating the crossing because it does and so and then the last thing is by putting a bridge versus a tunnel. Even if they had been the exact same dollar amount to go under or over, and they weren't because the tunnel with the topography and the utility conflicts and the water table because of the creek, it was it's more expensive to do the tunnel, but they were the same. We still wanted to go above grade because it creates an opportunity for us to have an amenity people can reference when they're like, where is that? Right. Because right now, a lot of people don't realize north of us in Johns Creek on 141 is a somewhat similar scenario in which there's 2 large retail spaces. They're connected by a tunnel. No one would know. No. We could never say, Rick, I'll meet you up in Johns Creek right at that tunnel. No one would know.
Well, quite frankly, I mean, having a bridge gives a monumental look to it.
It does.
To a landmark look, I should say.
There you go.
That makes more sense.
And that's what we thought is we're going to create a landmark we can talk to. And then visually, you're showing the connection between the 2.
Right.
versus just saying it is. You're actually seeing a connection.
Right.
And so that's the excitement. We just took a little bit longer to get to the design and the cost, to a point where we are at. But we got a lot of community input, and I think we have a distinctive bridge, meaning it's not just an average run-of-the-mill bridge, but it's not too audacious and over-the-top or expensive.
Based on the schematics I saw, to my opinion, it looks like it fits the space correctly, and it just fits it as a monument to a landmark, really. I shouldn't say monument, a landmark to that area.
Right.
To this area.
Good way to put it.
So there's a lot of stores already open, a lot of businesses already open. We have First Watch, Firebirds, Farm Burger, a bunch of places, boardroom salon. Marlowe's just opened recently, right? City of Peachtree, obviously, the movie theater. There are a few more actually coming on board. There's a couple on second floor businesses, I think.
There are. So
I didn't even realize that until I saw the schematics of the place.
Right. So there is a second. If you're coming in Town Center Drive, and you're looking on the right, like along the First Watch, right there, there are second floor space.
Yeah.
But their orientation is south towards, the Old Earth Fair Shopping Center. That's where their front doors are.
Okay.
And you enter it by going off of the second floor of the parking deck.
Okay.
So it's not at grade. It's a second, and it doesn't go out under the main street.
So it's not like the Forum where there's a middle part to one of the buildings where you walk into an area, then you can take the elevator.
Right. No. So this has exterior entrances.
Okay. And what's up there actually?
The exterior.
I think there's a salon. Not a salon.
There's
a yoga place is up. If I remember right, that I saw.
There's no eating establishments up there.
No, that I know. All right, so it's services. I think it was. I know for. I'm pretty sure I saw yoga was on the.
Yeah, there may be a hair salon up there, or.
But are we closer to fulfilling? I know Lazy Dog, that building is coming further and further along.
It is.
It looks like it'll be finished.
It's a big building.
It's a huge building. You got pets, you got a dog. It's a dog-friendly patio out there. In fact, Explore Gwinnett, I think, is doing a top 20 pet-friendly patios.
Oh, really?
And I'm not sure if that one's on it, but I think it
should be. I mean, it's a shtick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and right next to that is going to be another building that still has to actually be started, right?
That's correct. So right now they're, the site work, because, there's different dirt was moved around and they got to get compaction the right way. And then even Lazy Dog is using some of that as a laydown yard for their construction material. Yeah. And of course, this is all being managed by the master developer, Fuquay. Right. And so they're moving the pieces around as they need to, but soon they'll go vertical. I think that they're submitting for permitting and all that kind of stuff. But that'll be one building with a degree of a tower right at the corner, kind of similar to the Forum, where it has the turrets. Right. I think this one's square anyway, but it has that type of thing. And then the building will be divided in half. Under the, inside the building. One half will be an Xfinity store showroom, and then the other one will be Uncle Jack's Meat House. Which is out in Duluth, so this will be the second location, I think, for them. At least here in Gwinnett County. Yeah, they got one just down the road on Sugarloaf Parkway from where the Chambers unincorporated Gwinnett. Unincorporated Gwinnett, that's right. Well, Duluth mailing address, but you're right, unincorporated. Yes, so they have a location there, and so they're opening one here. Yeah, they can't wait to move in. I've spoken to them, and they're like, well, plans have been pushed back for obvious reason. The rain doesn't help when it rains, and it's been raining a lot. But so they can't wait to come in. But the other buildings are all pretty much further along. I think Revelator, where the coffee place is going to be, they're working through there. And so there's only one more non-residential building to be built on the exact site, and that's the one that we just talked about. Okay. There are 2 units maybe that they haven't started the interior. Yeah. It's not a renovation because it's new, but the interior finishes, the build out. Yeah. So there's only 2 left. Mm-hmm. Now, then we've got the townhomes that they're doing the grading and compaction right now, and that's in between, on Medlock Bridge, in between the town green and Medlock, and so those are going in, and that'll be over the course of the next year they'll be under construction.
When they're going to actually start
going
building,
vertical? Soon. I mean, they're not stopping. So as soon as the grading's done, they're going to start pouring foundation. Okay. Yeah, they're not doing it and waiting for some.
So now in Town Green, in that Town Green area, the stage is complete.
Stage is complete.
We have, there's a I don't know what it's called, a play area, I guess, that's there. Grass has obviously been laid down for this.
Sod has been laid down.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of this, this weekend's activities, I'm fully expecting that we're going to have to resod the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, just too many people, too early.
Yeah.
There's really no way to avoid it. Because if you waited for the grass to get established, you would have to literally, not let anybody on it for a couple months.
Right.
And that's hard when everything is done. People, even now, with barricades up at certain openings, people were going in there anyway. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. So we were running into that problem anyway. And so if we didn't do that, and we were going to sod it and then go ahead and just, as soon as everything was done, just go ahead and open it to the public, we run this risk.
Well, it'll be interesting because right after this, I think May something, there's another event that's going on too.
Is that the Kentucky Derby?
Kentucky Derby, that's it, yeah.
Well, so next to the stage, we've got a big outdoor screen.
Yeah, but you're going to be playing the actual Kentucky Derby.
Correct. That is the intent for, and I can't remember, is it like 23 feet from corner to corner or something? I mean, it's a huge screen. And, of course, the purpose of that is, or there's a lot of purposes to it. Like Saturday, when Atlanta Rhythm Section are playing, there will be a live feed of somebody's taping them and then playing what they're taping on the screen. Right. So if you're way in the back, you can still see it, which is pretty common.
Yeah.
But there will be, and then other times we're going to just, movies on the green.
Right.
Put a Disney movie on there or something, family-friendly one, and then the family come out, bring some blankets, chairs, or whatever, and, watch that.
That'll be fun.
And then some sporting events. The Kentucky Derby is one where, we think that'd be a good one. You can get out there and, if you want to wear your huge hat and, all that kind of stuff. Some mint juleps. And,
yes. I think Marla's doing mint juleps. And there'll be a contest for those big hats. Yep. So come out there and
I mean, it's just, again, like lots of cities have in their downtowns, and there's a lot of cities in Gwinnett that do a good job of this with their downtowns, Norcross, Duluth, Sugar Hills, but they have activities that bring their people to its that gathering place. And now we finally got one.
And we have actually an event manager now that's actually that's planning these things out. I mean,
we're retaining a firm to help us. Yeah, we didn't hire somebody to do it, but yes, their contract with the city is to be the event manager of these organized events that are done at a higher level. There's going to still be some things that are done at a grassroots level. Like I believe somebody's going to do yoga on the green, and it doesn't have anything to do with us. Right. Other than maybe, I don't know if they wanted specific place on the green always for them at a certain time. We may be scheduling, because we will schedule that. Okay. But, a lot of people can do things out there that they don't need any assistance from the city beyond what's already out there. Okay. There's bathroom facilities out there.
Public, right.
Public bathroom facilities. There's, of course, plenty of restaurants and parking. So there could be, other poetry classes could go. I mean, whatever. I mean,
so the grand opening Saturday, we're going to have a parade. I think that starts at 4.
Yeah, so prior to that, there's some ribbon cutting ceremony starting at 3, believe, in which it's kind of dedicating certain aspects of the town center. Right. And so council's kind of doing a round robin of everything from, the turning on the torchières, the torches along the, to dedicating the veterans
which is that complete now?
No, it's complete with everything except the statues.
Okay, so the paving...
The pavers are in, the pedestals that the statues will go on are in, all that stuff is in. Statues are not. Those will be in so that in June is when there will be an event just for that. That'll be the final unveiling of the statues and the final dedicating. But currently they want to dedicate it into the town green, and there's, so they'll do that, and then at 4, there's a parade.
Right.
And then from 5 to 8?
I think it's 5 to 8.
5 to 8, you got a DJ out there, and then, people just kind of enjoying it, whatever they're doing, throwing Frisbee, going to the restaurants, whatever. And then I believe it's 8 is when Atlanta Rhythm Section plays.
Yeah.
And then I think it's at 9.
Is it a drone light show?
Okay, so then at 9:30 is the last organized, and there's going to be a drone light show.
That should be interesting.
So that'll be we're doing that instead of fireworks.
Yeah. It's a little bit more friendly to the environment.
A little bit higher, it's a little bit more...
And higher tech.
Higher tech, and we're, we've got some high-tech stuff going on out here, so we thought it was fitting. So, we'll see how that goes, but I'm excited to see how that looks, too.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, it's just putting that, not the pin in it, if you will, because there's still more to come, but this is a great start-off for this. Neat. Good stuff.
Yeah, finally.
I know, I feel the same way, right? It's like this whole thing is dragged out, and it's finally getting to where it's going.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. And I'm sure the businesses are doing well, and I'm sure once it's all done, people will recognize, and once that bridge is up, which is about when do you think that bridge might actually be up there?
Usable?
Yeah.
Probably, a year from right now.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe sooner. I mean, if weather was cooperating, and there's, that's a big one always. And then the other big one is when we lay the span in. Because we will not do anything to exacerbate the traffic congestion that road already has, especially during rush hour.
Yeah.
So we will build both of the end foundation with the elevators and everything, and then there will be a time where we're prefabricating the span off-site.
Right.
They truck it in, they piece it together, and then they set it in. And it's a wide road.
Yeah.
And so when they do, there's going to have to be, I believe there's going to have to be some closure of that. And so they'll do it at night.
Like at 2 a.m?
Oh,
maybe?
correct. And so because of that, if we hit the holiday season, we probably won't. I think we'll
just push
to maybe January is when we're going to do that kind of stuff, because we just don't want to interfere with any of the holiday shopping or anything. So those two things are why, a year from now, it could be a little bit sooner. But
in the meantime, while everything, once the Lazy Dog's done and the other constructed building's done, it will seem complete, at least at that point. Because it's funny, before that, people were like, where's the town center? It's really amazing. It's right there, but people are still like, where's the town center? So I'm sure there's other signage possibly that'll go up at some point.
That's correct. There will be. But Lazy Dog, and then Uncle Jack's Meat House and the Xfinity, because it's got a kind of a second-story tower.
Right.
Or 2-story tower there, so it kind of has a nice cap to it, or an entrance. That'll help. Yeah. The bridge will always be the connecting point between the two, to where you're like, okay, two destination locations are linked.
Can't miss it at that point. That's for
sure.
Sure.
It's still coming. We've always got work to do, but we're excited about it.
Cool. What's going on with anything new on the Curiosity Lab, on any of that business that's going on?
Oh, sure. That one is a beast in a good way, but it's just, in fact, its reputation, because of the uniqueness of it, is preceding anything I can keep up with. I can't build this thing fast enough. And which is usually, usually cities go through this process where they come up with an idea, especially a bigger one, and then there's oftentimes years that go by between when they first decided to do this and when they actually do it.
Right.
And for some reason, sometimes, a lot of times, it's for a good reason. But here, it was only a little over a year ago we decided to do this.
Yeah, it's not that long. Yeah.
Even when we decided to do it then, we thought we were going to build a dumb corridor, a dumb track, and we were actually looking to get a chassis of some sort and let companies come in and use our chassis to test components of autonomous or advanced vehicles on. And then we started, when council said, city manager, go do your thing, I knew I had to surround myself with a bunch of really smart people in this area, in this space, because this is, this isn't cutting edge stuff. This is bleeding edge stuff. Yeah. So I, got a bunch of smart people to start helping me with the due diligence. And at the end of the day, they said, you don't need a vehicle. The vehicles will come, because all these original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, they have that already. They're not going to want to, and even insurance, they're not going to want it. But what they don't have is, and we'll go to the big ones, the car manufacturers, the Waymos, the Ubers that are really spending billions of dollars on autonomous vehicle, research development. They have closed courses. They have a closed track somewhere, and there's even some ones that are open for hire. M-City, which is associated with University of Michigan, is a well-known one.
M-Planet, actually, I think it's called. Or is it M-City?
No, it's M-City.
M-City, okay.
And, you can pay for time on their track. There's a lot of those. What there isn't any of is what happens if you had a technology, say a vehicle that it passes all the closed course tests, so it graduates from there, but it needs to at some point go out into what we call the wild, integrate with humans.
Right.
How do you do that? There's no location in which you can, in a semi-controllable environment, without too many complicating factors or too many people or whatever, do this in a safe way. And we have that.
And with 5G technology to boot.
Correct. And so, we are in a position where, A, we control the entire space. We don't have to get the county's permission. We don't have to get the state's permission. We don't have to get the Federal Highway Administration. And that's rare. So that's the first thing is when we tell, potential testers out here, you only need us to say yes and you're good. And they're like, that's it? European companies especially, because they've got to go through all sorts of levels of bureaucracy to be able to do this. And so they're like, all you got, yes. Second thing is, with the experts, they said, you've got to have a really good baseline of 5G. That wireless environment is critical for you to test because it requires that much broadband, that low of latency for you to do it. And we got with Sprint, they're putting it in. We're way ahead of everybody else. They're opening the 5G up for companies to come in here and test and even take non-mobility type of stuff and get help in 5G utilization here at Prototype Prime. So Sprint's setting up space here that if you had, even a phone, you could have a phone and you say, I want to use 5G, help me get my phone and get it all, tweaked to be able to use it.
That's because 5G is actually not just on that road, it's in the whole technology park.
All of Tech Park.
All of Tech Park. Right.
And, again, there's already the first benefit of us doing this laboratory benefits more than just the laboratory. All of Tech Park benefits. We've had buildings filled because companies said the final push that we needed to say, yes, is you putting in this track.
We're seeing more companies come into Tech Park, it seems, and into the city, actually, as a whole.
Yes, but, the big one right here is 2 buildings from where we're at is the old Honeywell building.
Right.
100,000 square feet that's been vacant since before this city was created. And we just filled it. because the company ultimately was, there's lots of reasons, but they were like, you know what, you're committing to this.
Right.
We want to be a part of something like that. We want to be close to
there's
it.
Excitement
There is.
when you're doing things like that and you're associated with this type of excitement. And the interesting part is that there were a lot of people before this that they didn't want. They were like, why is the city even bothering to do this? The city should not be in the business of doing this. City should be what was originally declared as a light city, and we shouldn't be doing all this stuff. But let me tell you, with all the things that is going on, I mean, you know this firsthand as city manager, but as a citizen in the city, looking at what's from the outside, what's going on, there's a tremendous amount of excitement for this stuff. And that type of excitement just brings in more business because you're being talked about more often.
Yes.
Because the association with companies like Sprint, with like that Honeywell tenant,
Brightree.
And CarMax is
Ashray,
coming
the
in.
recall building, they're moving their corporate headquarters here.
Yes.
And they're making their building, inside of their building, like literally like the most eco-friendly,
Yes, I
LEED
saw that.
certified.
Yeah.
I mean, so cutting edge and building facility stuff, because they wanted to be close to what we're doing something. Here's another example of that too. So the world's largest smart city conference is called the Smart City Expo World Congress.
Right.
It's actually, we were invited to be a part of the U.S. delegation last November to go to the annual conferences in Barcelona.
Right.
So the city was invited to participate last November. Well, this conference, this annual conference that's always in Barcelona, has gotten so big that they've created kind of regional conferences in the world. There's an Asian one, kind of like a feeder one to the main one.
Right.
And so they've started this, and they're doing a North American one. And the very first location for the North American conference of the Smart City World Expo is Atlanta. Atlanta got...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just announced it week and a half ago.
Okay.
So a lot of work by a lot of people. I believe the Metro Atlanta Chamber led it. And, the director of Metro Chamber's IoT is Cynthia Curry, has been a huge proponent of us, big supporter, been an invaluable resource for us to use. And she's the one who invited us to be a part of the U.S. delegation last November. But so they get this, and then Cynthia brings a big team from the Metro Atlanta Chamber up, and we presented to them here. They got to see it, and they went back and have officially recommended to the committee who ultimately decides. So I have every reason to believe it'll happen, but that one of the off-site official demos is going to be here.
Really?
So you got this.
That's exciting.
Smart City Conference in North America, in which people are going to be coming here to see all this kind of stuff. And the conference will have, and these conferences, if you have interesting stuff to like carve out, like say 4 hours or something, and you get in a van and you'll go to some site and you'll see something. One of them here. I mean, we would never be, offered that if we weren't doing it. It is September.
Oh, this September.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's fast.
It is.
Actually. Where are they going to be actually holding the main
World
part?
Congress Center.
Okay, that makes sense. I want a ticket to that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to see
absolutely.
the stuff there. That's unbelievable.
I mean, because it's here, so you don't have to go to Barcelona, which is hard for some to do, which is why I think the parent organization said we need to do some regional stuff.
That's so fast to be able to pull that together.
And so, and there, the speaker list for the conference is a who's who of the big, names in Atlanta, even some that don't necessarily have to do a smart city, but they're rolling out the A-list.
Right.
People, even the Tyler Perry and Ludacris and guys that have nothing to do with necessarily smart cities.
Right.
Although Tyler Perry's he's got some cutting edge technology on his production, but it's just to get people interested to talk about Atlanta in general. But we would have never had an opportunity like this if we weren't doing something that you just can't find anywhere else.
That's a great opportunity because, the publicity that goes with that then shows up in other people's
and we also get event space on the floor, too. So we can set up a booth.
And talk about the time.
We'll do whatever we want to do.
Nice.
So we actually had meetings earlier this week, and I'm like, guys, September will be here before we know it. What can we do
Wow.
I mean, you've been in, essentially, on
It's
the
like a
convention
trade
center
show
floor.
or
Yeah, it's like a
something.
trade show. So
Yeah.
you're walking through all of these booths and setups.
And you want it interactive
What makes
with something?
somebody stop at yours?
Yes.
And so we're trying to figure out ways that we can get them to stop and see our stuff. So again, what's in it is getting the city on the map makes people interested in moving here, living here, all of that. And the more activity we get,
Right.
Old Honeywell building gets occupied. What did they announce? 100 some odd employees.
Yeah.
Well, that building's been vacant for more than 7 years. You get that building filled, and those people have to go to lunch somewhere.
Yeah.
They may need to shop somewhere.
Right.
They may want to live really close to where they work, so they move here. I mean, it's just
Well, there's other companies
rising
also,
tide.
right. CarMax is coming in with 300 employees.
Hapag Lloyd announced that they consolidated their really East Coast operations here at the
Right.
corner of Spalding and
So even
141.
though they consolidated, they're expanding the facility that
Yep.
they're in. So there's a lot of that going on. That's unbelievable. And so we've talked about Town Center. We've talked about the whole big thing going on here, and I'm glad to hear about that conference in September.
Yeah.
And there's other, the city has other things too, obviously. There's Simpsonwood Park, Jones Bridge Park. There's so many amenities. The trail, even, some people were talking about that recently, about when that's going to be finished up. But there's a trail system that the city's working on.
So the next one will be, the next phase of that, ultimately it'll be an 11-mile system.
Right.
The next phase of it is just right down the road from here around the lake inside of Tech Park.
And you got permission, I think, to do that now.
One at Ashray, who's
Ashray,
moving
okay.
into the old recall building, they signed over, they donated an easement for us to put it in at the back, because all of the companies that are around that lake, their property goes up to the edge of the lake.
Yeah.
And so we need a little bit of their property to put it in. And they gave us a bunch of theirs, and we had a couple of us, so we could piece it together. So we are almost, when you combine it to Echo Lakesides, we're almost all the way around the lake now.
Wow.
So we're going to start on that here within the next 60 days.
Okay.
And so by fall of this year, that'll almost all be done.
That part. And that
Yep.
part is about how...
around the lake, you're probably pushing, you're 3/4 of a mile.
Okay. All right.
It's a lot, but that'll be a good one. It'll be connected to the hand sidewalk out here too, so you can just walk right back in there and walk
you got
around.
all that sidewalk that was just put into Tech Park also.
And then I think Triangle Parkway, we're putting in some right now.
Right.
So we're still doing it, but yeah, that was at least that. This is one where it'll look like kind of those back in the woods type of things.
Multi-purpose trails.
We don't have in some cases we don't have a lot of opportunities to do that because we don't have a lot of undeveloped property.
Yeah, so you're working around the stuff.
We
that's
are,
there.
and so we're sometimes having to do certain things, but that's going on. Resurfacing is still going on in different locations. We're still doing $2 million every year on that.
People forget about that.
The
how
solid
much money that
waste
is.
change seems to be people. The routine is starting to get in place to where most people are like, okay, I understand when my pickup day is and the rules and.
Yeah, it's easy now.
You'd still be surprised that some people. Yeah, the big thing
What's
is
the
the
biggest thing?
trash that doesn't fit in the container.
Okay.
So the previous solid waste provider, even though their contract stated if it wasn't in the can, they didn't have to pick it up. But they had made the decision, and this actually contributed to their inability to pick up the entire city in one day, but they used a truck with 2 people per vehicle. So there was a person who emptied
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And so when you have a person who empties it, you can also have that person grab a couple of boxes that are leaning against the outside of your container. Waste Management is using, they got brand new trucks, compressed natural gas.
To be able to
they are using an arm.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways we were able to keep the cost down is because there's not 2 people per vehicle. There's only one, and that person's driving. And then when they stop, they operate the arm that comes out and picks it up and dumps it into the dumpster. And then every now and then they drop the dumpster into the compactor in the back, and then they compact it so they keep going. So they don't pick up stuff
So
that's on the outside.
My assumption was that was part of the deal, because I remember putting boxes outside the containers that we had, and
they would pick it up, but it was not part of the deal. Contractually, they did not have to, but they did. And I could see why, good customer service, whatever. But so then there are still people that right now have not had that extra thing. And then they just are like, well, I used to be able to do it, and so every now and then I'll be like, even driving through my own neighborhood, and I'm like,
it's not going to be picked up.
Correct. And and then we get, I can't believe they didn't pick it up. And you're like, man, how many times do we send stuff out saying, if it doesn't fit, first of all, save it for the next one. Or in some cases, and I know in our house, having a full 96-gallon recycling container.
Yeah, bigger than the two little buckets.
Yes,
actually.
and so we've found that, our normal household container maybe gets filled halfway every week just because...
That's pretty good, because mine gets filled.
Well, my wife is big into, but our recycling container is filled all the way.
Oh, okay.
I mean, but because of that, and it's 96-gallon, I don't need the full. Yeah, before it was always full and overflowing.
You got to remember to crush the cans and the bottles this way you can fit it all in. And by the way, the caps on the water bottles are not recyclable, for those that don't know. So I just found that out recently. I thought it was all recyclable, but no, the white cap on a water bottle, put that into the garbage, because no recycling on that. And there's a list on the website, on the city's website, I believe. There's a
sticker on the top top of the recycling container. We actually told, yes. I mean, in fact, I don't think it's a sticker. I think they actually
laminated onto the top.
I don't think you can take it. Yeah,
no, you can't.
Yeah. And so if you ever wonder, you know, and I've had to do it, is this, you know.
Pizza boxes, and I still forget if pizza boxes are not or is, but yeah.
Well, they are unless there's food, like stuck pizza.
Stained,
and then, Well, the other one, you know, you think, all right, plastic. Plastic is a big recyclable, but like the Walmart plastic bags are not.
Yeah.
And so
anything
sometimes
any flimsy soft plastic.
So I've had to read the top as I have them next to each other. I'm like, can I? And you read it, you're like, nope.
See,
and then it goes
into becoming a good, green, sustainable citizen.
But some people, you know, other ones too, is they don't break their boxes down.
Yeah,
so they'll be like, well, I didn't have any more room in my recycling container because and you're like, break your box down. And they didn't have to before because they just kind of.
Well, I don't know about that. I still broke my boxes down and tied them with the twine.
Well, you may have, but still other people didn't.
Just stick it out there and just go.
We're still getting a few things, but they're definitely.
We're becoming better.
The new normal is finally, it's here. Well, you know, it's interesting. Just in the last couple of weeks, there have been a number of articles published about recycling in general may not actually be sustainable. Just because when you recycle, the cost of recycling, I mean, glass is already off because it just doesn't make financial sense. And then a lot of the recycling in the U.S. was taken to China, and they've stopped taking certain things. And so there are some communities. I want to say it was some communities in New York or California or whatever that they just stopped it entirely. It's all household trash in one container because it's just not, you know, so you're like, wow.
And you know what, in what we call an expanding economy, that's true.
Right.
One day, 50, 60, 70 years from now, we'll be in a contracting economy where oil is not building or manufacturing that plastic anymore. And as long as the cost if the cost goes up for plastic, then it becomes a good thing to recycle. So it's really, like you said, it's all about the economy. It's not worth it when you can buy it cheap enough. Like gas, if you could buy it cheap, why would you want an electric car, for example? And that's the sad part of it. Because until that gas goes up, we're still stuck.
Well, gas and then the range.
And the range, right.
You know,
I mean, how many people go 200 miles really in a day? I mean, that's what the range is for some of the higher end. I think it's actually up there, about 180 miles on an electric car, on a charge. I mean...
But you still get the range anxiety because you may be able to go 180 miles. But then when you get to that point, how prevalent is an electric charger going to be?
That's the problem, yes.
And then if you find one... Is it being used by somebody? Because it's not like you go to a gas station and they're filling up gas and then and they're all the pumps are full. You just got to wait a couple minutes and one will be free.
Right
here, unless it's the
The accelerated.
The chargers.
Right.
In which case,
Still 20 minutes.
It's still 20 minutes, and it's not good on the battery to use that a lot.
Yeah, right, because batteries need to be depleted. And
correct.
So.
And so, even then, so that's where you get the range anxiety. It's not just you're right.
No, you're right. And if you do the AC and you're running other things, it does...
But electric vehicle research and testing is one of the components out here. We've talked about the solar field that we're going to build in the roadway, and then it'll generate electricity.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's the cars will drive over the solar panels. It's the roadway, and then it'll generate electricity that will feed the charging stations at City Hall for you to charge a vehicle. So you could drive your electric vehicle on top of a roadway that's generating electricity that's feeding the charger that you're getting ready to use to charge your battery.
Isn't that amazing? Using the surface that's already there.
So we're going to test. I mean, the technology's there. Just they need to perfect it and do some things. We need to do some testing on how well the solar panels wear against automobiles, things like that. Sure. Does it degrade the solar cells over time? But
materials might have to be adjusted for it.
Correct. Yeah. We also have a company who's interested in maybe getting a cross section and putting in coils in the roadway and testing the charging of electric vehicles as they're driving.
No, that would be cool.
You're driving over coils that are charging your car as you're driving. Yeah. Things like that will be... And the other one that just opened up since we last met is we were meeting with... And in fact, I believe it was the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and somebody on their team said, you ever thought about having cybersecurity testing out here? Or second, and here's the premise behind it is, of course, we're creating this laboratory in which the Internet of Things, as the future will have everywhere, but we're creating that here, meaning all the infrastructure and cars and people's phones in this are talking to each other. Yeah. Light poles are talking to other light poles, talking to cars, talking to oncoming cars, talking to the phones of the people walking down, talking to cyclists, talking to the traffic signal, all of it. And it requires the 5G so much communication. But what happens if somebody comes in and hacks the environment or even hacks an autonomous vehicle and takes it over and does stuff? So there's this new environment we're creating, the Internet of Things, in which it's actually expanding opportunities for hackers to get into the grid and manipulate things. And so what better place for somebody to come in and test, practice defending against or test ways to,
it was interesting when the apps started getting big over some years back, and app developers, anyone could be an app developer now.
Right.
You could be on AWS. Amazon provides their servers to be able to develop apps in the cloud and stuff, be able to use AI without creating your own AI environment.
Okay.
And so now you have... Whereas before, some of these apps weren't even interested in security because they're gaming apps, let's say, or the other things. So they're not thinking they need to be securitized, if you will. But now they need to, because that one app can hack through something else.
Right, because that app is connected to a bunch of other stuff, so they just use the app to get into other things.
So security is becoming, and when you're getting literally thousands of attacks within minutes on a system where people think, well, it's only, how many times do they hack? Literally thousands of times a minute, a system can be prodded until one thing gets through.
Yeah.
Because
it's somebody built an app to probe the defenses continuously. Yes.
So it's a continuous cycle.
So, we're creating something that it may be cybersecurity that we have testing in there. It's not always just the mobility component. We've got a smart grid. We've got smart city stuff in there. We've got cybersecurity. I mean, it's...
Think of the Jetsons. I mean, it's really not that far away to be able to think of these things. Tesla's already building cars now with all the hardware in it for it to be autonomous, to be level 5, right? Autonomous vehicle. So, I mean, it's all out there.
It is.
So, to be able to then get cities are usually a little further behind the technology. I mean, who was it? I think Gwinnett County just announced recently they're on Facebook, by the way.
Yeah,
Twitter
this week.
And I'm like, wow, that took forever.
Right.
And that's just now. So you can imagine sometimes cities and counties just taking forever getting to where they are, and we're not doing that. We're right there at that bleeding edge, if you will.
Well, it's one advantage of being a new city and having two things to our advantage. One is we don't have the legacy cost that an old city has.
True.
I mean, I came from a city that was, 100 plus years old, and it had all sorts of services that at some point in the past it started providing, and then you try to take it away.
Yeah.
But we had community centers, a building that had to have electricity and had to, be maintained and had to have staff members there, and there would be a couple people who'd use it per day. I mean, a couple of people. And you try to close that, because you're paying all the staff, and the community loses its mind.
Right.
Even though nobody but a couple people in the community ever use it, but they lose their mind. Yeah. So you can't ever get that toothpaste back in the tube sometimes. We don't have that here. Yeah. So I don't have some of those costs. It's just you're just writing it off because. And then the second thing is you got to have an elected body that is open to progressive things, open to push the limit, open to looking at unique ways to provide value add to the community, and giving my staff and I the proper support and guidance along the way. I mean, I have a very progressive city council here
which
who are willing
is
to.
Phenomenal.
It is.
You don't see that in other places.
No, you don't. I mean, instead they'd want to do conventional things and whatever, but they've let us get creative in some ways and not even stuck in. When you've realized that you needed to do something else with this project, it's let's do something else. I go back and I'm like, look, I think we need it, and they're like, that makes sense. You did your due diligence. Right. We agree. Keep pushing. Yeah. I mean, so it starts with them. If they had not been that way, we would be done. Yeah. I mean, so I can't give them enough credit for just being that way. So we're blessed. I mean, no doubt about it.
Well, we've had a good 50-odd minutes, almost an hour of talking about the city, the new things going on, especially at Town Center and with the Curiosity Lab. So I'm excited just hearing about this stuff going on. There's more things coming. There's an expanded list of events, by the way, for the Town Center that you'll find in the last issue of Peachtree Corners magazine. You can find that online. And just to let those know that we were originally 4 times a year, but because of the reception we're getting for that magazine, I feel like we're a sponge in a pond of water. We're just soaking up things. We're going to be 6 times a year. And that's hitting every household in the city of Peachtree Corners, and actually some of the surrounding areas because of the way it's being delivered. So about 18,000 households will be getting this every other month. Next issue's out in June. We have some good stories planned for that issue. So I'm excited with that. I want to thank again Explorer Gwinnett for being a sponsor, and for CMX Cinebistro for being a sponsor of this show and the podcast that we do. And this is really good here at Prototype Prime with Brian Johnson, City Manager. My name is Rico Figliolini. I'm host of the podcast along with some others. In fact, we're doing another one this afternoon called Capitalist Sage, where we ask for sage advice from different business people in different areas of business. So check that out. That's twice a month with Carl Barham. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here.